Are we live? Hey, Mama Bash. Are we live? Yeah, we're live. Mama Bash in the house
I'm
early,
right here,
early.
Mom. I'm right here. I know, right? I'm right here, looking at you.
Oh, did she message you? Why does it say there's nobody watching when there's literally people here?
I don't know. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, here.
Oh, you're freezing up. Hmm. Yep, you're frozen. That would be a good emote picture. Damn, I should have screenshot that.
What about now? Can you? Am I moving still?
Mm-mm.
I'm not moving.
No, you're still frozen.
I'm. I'm gonna leave and come back.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Divinely Autistic. I love you too. Bash is having computer issues. It's normally me. It's normally me with the computer issues, but I have infected Yahweh's math tutor. Y'all notice Bash's stage name today.
Well, welcome to Verses and Vibes with Thinker and Yahweh's Math Tutor.
He changed his name specifically for today's podcast, y'all. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what he's going to do with the math. How he going to tutor Yahweh in math today.
Need to help him out. Need to help him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, wait. Genesis 15, right?
Yep. Genesis 15. You want to go ahead
Yeah.
and dig right in.
Let's dive right in.
All right. Okay. After this, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your Okay, so when it says after this is after Melchizedek shows up and is like, you know that victory that you got?
Yahweh gave it to you.
Yahweh gave it to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus? And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, So shall your offspring be. So we went from a vision to Yahweh taking him outside.
Taking him outside. Maybe in the vision he took him outside. I don't. Maybe it's visionary outside, not actual outside.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe.
Mhm. And Abram believed the Lord. Well, do you have something to say about any of that before I go on? Do you want me to just read like all the way through?
Kind of. Again, some of this stuff is hyperbolic, but because today I am Yahweh's math teacher or tutor, there are billions of trillions of stars.
Hmm.
Abraham will never have that many children,
Right. Yeah.
ever. Right?
Hmm.
That, trust Yahweh can't count. There are billions of trillions of stars. Right? Not just a billion or a trillion. There are billions of trillions of stars.
Yeah.
Nobody's having that many kids. One, and I mean that's hyperbolic. I know he's just saying you're gonna have a lot of kids, but he's starting to show you a pattern that he doesn't really have concepts of numbers like that. He
Hmm.
just doesn't.
Yeah. We were, and I know I'm jumping ahead of myself, but last night on Ria's Live, we were talking about when they came out of Egypt.
Mhm.
And do you like traffic in the morning, Bash?
I hate morning traffic.
Yeah. And have you ever wondered, like, who the hell starts traffic? Like, it's you're on the interstate. There ain't no red lights. How
Yeah,
does traffic begin? Right?
somebody in the wrong lane trying to get over. Yeah, yeah,
Or some old lady just wakes up at like 5:30 in the morning
yeah,
and she's like, "Let me get up so I can go start traffic today." Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
something. But okay, so you got millions of people, and probably in the city, you probably have tens of thousands of people traveling at one time to go to work, and it
Yeah,
creates traffic.
great traffic
600,000 Israelites, plus all their women and their children,
and cattle, livestock,
in cattle, all their belongings, their riches
and a
and their
mixed
wealth, their
multitude of other
possessions,
folk. Yeah,
leaving Egypt in one day.
yeah,
All right. All this is the stars in the sky that Yahweh can't count, right?
yeah.
The 2.3 million leaving Egypt. Tr- When
Trash.
Travis Scott had his concert, people got trampled. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
and keep in mind there's an army behind them, so don't skip the people.
and then we was trying to figure out how slow the army was going.
That army had to be moving wild slow. Yeah,
It's in a
super
whole
slow.
nother dimension because they couldn't catch up with 2.3 people. They moving like this, move, move, like leaving out of Egypt,
Yeah,
like waddling.
yeah,
Like, come on now.
yeah,
It don't make sense.
yeah. The math ain't math. Y'all can't count. I'm convinced of this.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
convinced of this.
Pregnant women lagging behind the elderly. Like they got to put
Oh,
some,
oh,
the disabled, the what? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, it's too many
No,
people.
ain't that. I think I want to pose this question tonight because I just want to see the. I want to see the logic.
The thing about most of the stories in the Bible, and this is true, like pretty much start to finish, is the logistics don't work. Right?
Mm-mm.
It's like it's a cool story. Like you might like the story of it all, and you may believe the story of it all. But if you thought about it from a logistics standpoint, it would be a logistics nightmare,
Yeah.
right? Trying
Mm.
to move that many people by foot,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you have to keep in mind, like even when you're moving sheep, the reason that we have dogs that help us with the sheep is the dogs come and bark at the sheep, and you need people in the back with horses and just to keep them all corralled, to keep them from veering off to this place and the other, right? So, like trying to move that many people via foot would be absolutely a nightmare,
Yeah.
right? Kids crying because they ain't got no fruit roll-ups, ain't no McDonald's on the way.
No manna from the sky.
Yeah, like it would be a logistical nightmare, like a logistical nightmare, and the amount of trash that you would leave in it. It would be a logistical nightmare.
And what that you just said something really important because that's what archaeologists have been excavating sites looking for. It would be the debris that would be
Debris,
left behind, right? And
yes,
there is none.
right.
There
And,
is none.
and,
That's
and unless Egypt came out with the Egyptian dump truck and just picked everything up,
what
like the event crew came
would be
out and
the
just
name of
cleaned
the
up.
dump truck?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
The
Pharaoh's
Exodus.
Pharaoh's garbage service. You know what I'm saying? Like the logistics would just be insane, right? The logistics of having as many children as the stars in heaven would be insane. Like there haven't been, like again, there are billions of trillions of stars.
Yeah. TT said some of them would have died. Yeah. Some of them Yahweh
Lots of them would
definitely
have died.
killed Yahweh killed a whole bunch of them in the
And just,
wilderness.
yeah, like lots of them would have died. Keep in mind, only two people over the age of 20 made it into the promised land, which means all those people that left, nobody that left Egypt made it into the promised land. So there would be those 2 million people that we're talking about are dead in the wilderness. They would
And what
have to
like
be
why
dead.
take them out of slavery to kill them in the wilderness? You were
That's what
better
Moses said.
and that means that when they were complaining to Moses, they was like, we better off. We were better off where we were at.
We had flesh pots, right? Again, logistically, it just doesn't work, right? Like
Yeah.
it just like if you just think of like what would it take for that to be the case? What should I expect to see if that is true? Right? Again, that
Yeah.
would be 2.3 million bodies in the wilderness, at least,
Yeah.
right? That's 2.3 million bodies, not including the kids that are born in the wilderness, right? Because only people under 20 and under made it into the wilderness. So anybody that was born in the wilderness in the first 20 years, they're dead, right? So the 2.3 million that left, plus anybody that was born in the wilderness in the first 20 years, are all dead.
Yahweh didn't like adults.
Didn't like it. And imagine trying to start a nation out of 20-year-olds, or 20 and unders, right? The logistics just don't work. Yeah, it's a logistical nightmare, and this is the beginning of that logistical nightmare, right? Even this year, I think there were like 2,000 people this year on the Hajj pilgrimage from Mecca to Medina. That
Mhm.
every year Islam does the Hajj. I think they reported like 2,000 people died this year just walking, just on a 6 day walk, or however long it is. I forget how long it is, but just on that walk, two
Is
thousand
it
people died.
is it because it's hot
It's
or they
hot.
don't?
It's hot. Just dehydration, right?
Oh
So,
wait,
so
on their walk, are they taking the same path that the Israelites took or something?
no,
Like
no, no. It's
what is
just
the
the same climate.
Okay.
Like they're going from Mecca to Medina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But the
Yeah.
same climate, same arid climate, right? It's hot.
Why are they walking?
It's the Hajj. It's just a part of their like. It's a thing you do.
I
It's
mean,
one
like
of
what
their
spiritual
religious.
aspect does it have of it?
It represents when I think when the like the I forget how you call it, but like the home of Islam moved from Mecca to Medina.
Hmm.
So you make that walk,
And
and then you
nobody can drive?
circumambulate the Kaaba when you get there.
Okay.
Right? You walk
And
around the Kaaba, you make your prayers and your salats and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's just every year they do that. Well,
right.
some Muslims do that. Most people try to do it once in their life. You know.
Okay. And so that taking that climate into consideration.
Yeah,
Yeah, he wasn't too smart. He wasn't too
yeah.
smart.
Trying to move that many people is just it's insane. And again, I think this year alone, 2,000 people died. So imagine, and that's just walking for a couple days. Imagine walking every day, right? If you losing,
For 40
let's just
year?
yes, let's say you losing 2,000 people a day. That's 700,000 some odd people a year, right? And multiply that by 40. You get what I'm saying? So you're looking at 2.8 million people dead. No, no, no. 20, 28 some odd million people dead just at that, right? So again, this just doesn't make mathematic sense. Yeah. Let's just keep reading down now.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it." But Abraham said, "Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it?" So the Lord said to him, "Bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon." Abraham brought all of these to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. Then birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, "Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation that they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. And the fourth generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, "To your descendants I give this land from Wadi of Egypt to the river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Kadamites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, Raphaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites, or Girgashites."
Gerger
Okay. Okay, so I know you want to get into the math right quick, and I cannot wait for you to do that. But um, so do you notice like a theme here? First off, there is rituals going. Like he cut the animals in half,
I was just about to
right?
bring it up to you.
Okay.
That was totally random. Made no sense to do. With but it's right here in the middle of the story, so you can pretty much point to what source that is. It plays nothing into the story.
Yeah. So the
Right.
priest is first.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. They are established in sacrifice. Abraham
Mhm,
gave sacrifice. Right.
mhm,
Because the question was, how do I know that this is true? Right.
mhm,
How do I know that you're going to perform this thing? Right.
mhm.
And he says, "Oh, bring me a sacrifice." What? That's not how I know. Right. Like, right. So
Yeah.
in other words, I'm establishing that if I want God to perform a word, if I get a word from God and I want it to come to pass, bring a sacrifice. Right. I'm establishing this early, but this really play. It doesn't play into anything, because even once the fiery pot comes through or whatever, he says, "Oh, it's going to be after you die." Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
like this, like what Christianity is today. Bring your offering, bring all the tithes into the storehouse. Whatever it is that you pray for, God's gonna bless you. Oh, and your
after you
reward
die.
comes after you die. Yeah.
Yeah, after you die. But this isn't this is an establishment of, hey, bring a sacrifice, offer this up to God, bring a ram and a goat and a bullock, da 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 da. Like, right? But none of this is. It establishes a specific type of covenant that you're gonna read again. You remember, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another.
Hmm.
Did y'all say that when y'all ended
May the
church?
Lord watch. May the Lord
Okay.
watch between you and me. Yes.
Yeah, okay. You know where that comes from?
No.
My phone rang.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Where does
Okay.
it come from?
It comes from a covenant. Hold on. Wait. It comes a little later in Genesis, where two people. I think it's Lot and somebody. As a matter of fact. Wait. Let me make sure. Hold on.
Robin, thank you. Yeah. So I have three uncles. Um, that they would say that prayer before they go to bed. They're autistic as well, but they would say, "May the Lord watch, may the Lord watch," and I can hear my uncle's voice in my head saying it right now. He said, "May the Lord watch."
Okay. This is from. You'll read this again in Genesis 31 and 49. Right.
Mhm,
And it's two people making a covenant with each other because they didn't trust each other. Right.
mhm,
And so basically they split an animal in half and later like opened up the two sides, and they walked between them and they made this covenant. Right.
mhm.
And it was basically because they did not trust each other. And they were saying, if either one of us break this covenant, may we be chopped in half like this is chopped in half.
Okay.
Right. But it's established here. You see this first
Mhm.
establishment. Hey, take the animals and split them in half, and then the pot walks through, right, the covenant.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like the kind of like a blood covenant.
Yeah, kind
Like
of a blood covenant.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
But the bad part is it's a one-sided covenant, because who could chop Yahweh in half? Right? Who could chop him in half? Right? Because mathematically speaking, okay, now we get into the math. What he said here just was not true. He did not keep this covenant. Right?
Yeah.
The Israelites were not in Egypt for 400 years. They were in Egypt for 430 years, and they were not in slavery for 400 years. Uh, at best, I mean at absolute best, if I'm stretching it to the highest hilt, 120 years. And I mean I am like I'm making magic, right? I would say closer to like 90 years, 100 years.
And that's just going off of the math because
That's
again,
just going
right?
off the math.
Like there's no archaeological evidence that they
That
were
they were ever
actually.
enslaved. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the math that's in, right? Because again, when we get over to Exodus, you'll see that they were in Egypt for a while. Then there arose a king that didn't know Joseph, and that king that came up that didn't know Joseph instituted the slavery, right?
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
Right. Then here comes Moses. This same king, this same Pharaoh is around when they leave. So unless we saying that Pharaoh lived 400 years,
Right.
right? And Moses was 80 when he returned. So I'm giving you the 80 years of Moses' life, right? And I'm gonna give you, I'll give you 20 years before, if he started 20 years before Moses got there, right?
Mhm.
Then the 80 years of Moses' life when he got back, then they left. So at worst case scenario, right,
120 years.
100 years. 120 is a stretch. It's closer to probably 100. And it may
Yeah.
be less than that. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So
and
now
plus they would have been successful. They were successful,
they were
right?
very successful and
Yeah.
numerous. So numerous and successful that the Pharaoh was scared of them.
Mhm.
That's why he put them in slavery, according to the narrative. So they weren't in Egypt for 400 years, right? They were in Egypt for 430 years. They weren't oppressed for 400 years. Maybe 100. Maybe. And again, that's a stretch, but maybe 100, right?
Them
So,
apologists is gonna see this video and they're gonna be mad at your ass for that math.
I mean, just work the math out. Now, while over in the New Testament, people say, "Oh, they was there for 400 years." That's not what Exodus says. So unless they're reading some other version of this that we don't have, right? Because Exodus,
Don't Paul even say that the law came 430 years later
yeah,
after the Exodus? I mean,
yeah,
after they were in Egypt?
yeah. Now that could actually be true if we're saying, grant what I'm saying. The Exodus says in Exodus 12 and 40. Let's
Mhm.
pull that up. That they were there for
You want me to go
430.
you want me to go to it?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's Exodus 12 and 40, I think is what it is. Oh, yeah, that was Jacob and Laban that split the animals. That's right. And that's because they didn't trust each other.
Oh man, did that make you freeze?
I'm here.
Oh,
Am I
okay.
frozen? Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
All right.
Well, it says the time that the Israelites had lived in Egypt was 430 years.
430 years, right?
Mhm.
So if Paul is saying, okay, the law came at this point, right? Because they lived for 430 years. Let's say the day they walked out into the wilderness, they got the law. Whatever. All right. So I can give Paul that, right? So,
Mhm.
but if Paul is saying that it lasted 430 years, then that means Paul is disagreeing with the prophecy that Yahweh gave in Genesis 15:13, where he says it's going to be 400 years. Now, I heard people say, well, it means at least 400 years, but that's not what it says because the scripture says know for certain,
Mhm.
right? Which means know to be exact, know this to be the truth, not an estimate, not a da 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 da. Know for sure that this is what it is, right? Now it wasn't even if they were in Egypt for people like, oh well, he meant at least 400 years. That's not what he said. He said no for certain, and they were not enslaved that entire time. They just weren't,
Yeah,
right?
he said for certain.
For certain, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like, oh well, around or at least or somewhere in the ballpark of certain, right? Certain means for sure, exact, right? This is true, right? And so anyway, point being that they weren't in Egypt for 400 years. They was in Egypt for 430 years, and they were not enslaved for 400 years. I'm again maximum, and I'm being generous, is 100 years because that would still mean that this same Pharaoh is alive and well for more than 100 years because it's the same Pharaoh that instituted slavery that was there when they left,
Yeah.
right? So the the timelines just don't make enough sense. Right?
It pushes it back, honestly. Well, I don't wanna get too far down off in it because we haven't gotten to them being in Egypt yet, but
Yeah.
the timeline pushes a lot of stuff back, like, it throws a lot of stuff off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like if you make the Genesis 1 creation story and the Genesis 2 creation, if you try to sync them to where Adam is made on day 6, if you try to sync those together like that, the same story, then again, that means that Yahweh is asleep through the flood.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
Yahweh will be asleep through all of that, right?
I
If
these
huh?
were kids that wrote these stories, like, are we reading fairy tales from kids?
I mean, we definitely read fairy tales, but I don't know how old they were when they wrote them, and I don't want to jump out there like that, right? But we
Like
definitely read fairy tales.
19,
Yeah,
18, 19 years old,
yeah.
14? They were
Kids.
teens. Like, if we think about it, even in, Europe, right,
Yeah.
the king that created the poor man's law was freaking 12.
What's the poor man's law? I don't know that law.
The vagabond law,
Oh, the
where
vagabond.
yeah, they had to get shipped out. Right,
Mm.
anybody that got caught not working was considered a vagabond, and they were put in jail, and they were, given the opportunity to become an apprentice. If they did not take that opportunity, they had to leave Europe. They were not a lot of them were shipped here, but that law was created by a 12-year-old.
It's a cold piece of work, really.
Yeah,
Cold
like,
piece
it's
of work.
crazy, you know?
It's really
I
crazy if you
mean,
think about it.
because they were kings, right?
That,
They're like,
that's children.
there were children taking their father's places. If their father died, no matter how old the child was,
You
the
king now.
child became the king. So I don't know, but yeah, Pax. I'm tripping. Like I tripped when I saw his name when we joined. Yeah, I did the same thing.
I'm here to help him. See, sometimes people don't help you because they think you got it all together. And I'm real enough to say, hey, you like you struggling in this class. See me after class, Yahweh. We'll sit down. We'll count. Right.
Yahweh
430 is
struggling.
greater than and not equal to 400. You see what I'm saying? I'm just here to help. I'm here
Yahweh
to.
struggling in Bible class is hilarious.
He struggles. It's not his strong suit. It's not his strong suit. So I'm here to help. I'm here to help. I'm also here to help him so that he knows that the day is not 930 years later. You see what I'm saying? In the day does not mean 930 years later. It just don't
Yeah.
mean that,
Hmm.
right? But Yahweh struggles with math, so I'm here to help him. I'm here to help him. And that one pair of animals is not seven pair of animals. You see what I'm saying? One pair of animals is not seven. I'm just here to help Yahweh with his math. That's all I'm here to do. You get what I'm saying? And you know, he getting it. He we working on it.
Okay, so what did the birds do?
The birds just one cut in half. I don't know. I don't know.
Like, why were they there?
Just to sacrifice him. I guess he just didn't cut him in piece. He didn't cut him in half to walk through.
Oh, so he did sacrifice them?
I'm assuming that he did. Otherwise, just having him there was crazy.
Right. Like I think because I like think about what you said. Like this is just what the priests put in there to, as they're reading there, here's the indoctrination of, oh, the sacrifice, oh, the
Yeah.
bird, oh, I can't afford
The
the
bulls and blah
rams,
blah blah
but the
blah. Yeah.
birds are acceptable. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
they're just there. He does absolutely nothing with these
No.
birds.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they forgot to say he slaughtered them. But yeah, but otherwise they just they're watching. They just sit around. Fuck is this? Why am I here?
Exactly.
Who brought me into it? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then verse 17. Why every time they talk about Yahweh is darkness,
Oh, I
smoke,
mean the men there too. Yeah. Yeah.
the fire pot, like as the more I study about this God, I notice the things that we grew up on with Halloween, the pitchfork, right?
Yep. The smoldering pot, the
Yes.
darkness. Yeah.
And then how can people not see that? How can they not see the correlation with that? And then, like, none of this stuff is biblical when they apply it to like witches, when they apply it to Satan, but it's the stuff that they're applying to the so-called demonic stuff.
Yeah.
It their book says belongs to their God. Like that's what I'm tripping off of.
You know what I've noticed though? You ever heard of like whiskey goggles?
No. Mm-mm.
Or like they're like people look better when you're drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um like people like a lot of our believer friends will be like, you need to have the Holy Spirit to understand this. I believe that the Holy Spirit are biblical whiskey goggles. Right. Like, so that when you read these things, there are just lots of things that you don't read. Like,
Mm,
you can read this story, but when you read it, you don't pay attention to why was this darkness here? What
mhm.
is that?
Yeah.
Right? Why? Why are we chopping animals in half here? Why is this a genocide? Why did he command you? Like you just don't see it that way.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. Like you'll read it, but you just literally don't see it. It's like, oh, it looks better because I'm drunk, right?
Drunk
Like
in the
you,
spirit.
yeah, you just don't see it. You just don't see it. Like later on when we get to Numbers, which is now that's a dense book, but when we get over there, we're gonna get to a point where They sacrificed these 32 women, these 32 virgin women.
Yeah.
And people just like, no, they didn't. Yes, they did. No, 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 that's not that. Right? It's the weirdest thing about that. Or even when, like I was talking about Yahweh's math right here to a guy, and he was like, it was 400 years. And I was like, well, it says right here it was 430 years. It doesn't matter because God said here it was 400. So it's 400, but God says here it's 430. Don't matter. That's not a contradiction. Okay. Okay. Right. Like, okay. I don't know how to argue that with you because there's no argument to be had. This is
Did
not
he
a
know that
matter
he
of,
was going to need apologists?
clearly he did.
Do you think so?
They were called before the foundation of the earth. Right? Their names was written in the book before the foundation of the earth. Right?
The apologists were?
Yeah. Anybody he called, he justified. Right? He chose me, justified them. Right? And their names been in the Lamb's book of life since before the foundation of the earth.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly, Mama Bash. That's what I said. Like you need the birds to include the poor. That's I agree. Like it's just there so the poor can be like, "Oh, I'm included in this."
Yeah. And so the priest could say to the poor, you're included too. Don't think that you ain't got to bring sacrifices. Moses brought a whole slew, right? From the poor man's sacrifice all the way to the rich man's sacrifice. So this is the institution. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, let me show you something right quick. I cannot believe I read that from the NIV. Like Bible Gateway needs to stop playing with me with putting the NIV on my screen because we're gonna fight the next time they do that. I cannot stand that translation. But let's see, Matthew 3:12. Okay, talking about the correlations between the darkness that um Abraham and the dream that Abraham had, the darkness that came over him, right? And
Yeah.
that smoking witch's pot or a fire pot that walked,
Cauldron,
and
yeah.
the
Yeah.
pot walked, like the pot walked through between the two animals. That's some scary shit.
Unless you think of it like it's Snow White, where the pot got, the broom came through, be our guest, be our, and they was dancing, you know what I'm saying? And the pot came down with a jig. You don't remember that? Okay.
Yeah, I remember that, but no, darkness, animals cut in half, and the blood everywhere. You got to think about like the blood on the altar, and then
Blood
this
everywhere.
fire pot with a blazing torch shows up and walks between these two halves of these animal carcass that's been cut in. Like that is a scene from some type of horror movie. But okay, so Genesis 3:12 says his winnowing. This is talking about Jesus, right? When he comes
Okay.
back and he,
Genesis 3:12, Matthew 3:12.
I mean Matthew 3:12, where
Okay.
he is separating the wheat from the tare, and he
Mhm.
has his winnowing fork in his hand
Yeah.
to clear the threshing floor. Now, we grew up on the idea or the image of the devil with a pitchfork in his hand, did we not?
Yeah.
And then the devil with fire around him, with smoke and fire pots.
Yeah.
But all of those things, all of those images belong to this God and his son.
Yeah.
Like if you notice, like the winnowing fork,
It's a pitchfork.
it's a pitchfork.
That's why you're pitching. So it's called a pitchfork.
It,
Yeah.
I mean, it's there.
But it
I guess
says
you really got
winnowing
to have
fork.
eyes to see,
Yeah, it
right?
says winnowing fork. And you don't know what winnowing is. So you don't think of it that way. Yeah.
Nope. Nope. Okay, you ready to go to Hagar and Sarah's love triangle?
All right, get freaky with it. Let's get freaky.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, here we go. Now, Sarah, Abraham's wife, bore him no children. She had an Egyptian slave whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said to Abram, "You see that the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go in to my slave. It may be that I shall obtain children by her." For those of y'all that's been asking, has the rain come yet for my shoulder? Look, the rain, it just thundered and the pain is freaking gone. Like, that's just ridiculous. That's
Mm,
ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, I just heard the thunder. The rain is on its way. My arm isn't throbbing. I'm back to normal, right? Like,
mm.
it's just weird. But okay, here we go. Now, Sarah, Abraham's wife. Oh, hold on. Go into my slave. This is where just straight sex slavery. It
Yeah,
may be that I shall obtain children by her. And Abraham listened to the voice of Sarah. So after Abraham had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian, her slave, and gave her to her husband Abram as a wife. He went in to Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. She got jealous, basically. She made a decision, got jealous.
yeah.
Then, then Sarah said to Abram, "May the wrong done to me be on you. I gave my slave to you, to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me." But Abram said to Sarah, "Your slave is in your power. Do to her as you please." Then Sarah dealt harshly with her, and she ran away from her. How can anybody try to argue that slavery wasn't slavery in ancient Israel, and that this God did not condone slavery or this type of behavior?
Well, one, because we clearly don't know what the word condone means. We just don't know what that word means. Two, it's just people just be lying. They just lie because it's clear as day. This is not ambiguous at all.
Mm-mm.
It spells it right out, right? That for two people to have a conversation about somebody else's reproductive system, and then that conversation be as they said it, like go into my slave. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna go into your slave. That's your position, so I'm just gonna go into it. Okay, right? Like this is clearly sex slavery, clearly.
And then she's like, "Oh, I'm jealous. May the Lord judge between you and me because I'm now that she's pregnant, she's looking at me like she better than me." And then Abraham's like, "Well, that's your slave. Go like do if take your
Do
anger on him. You feel
yeah,
like it, go
do
go
your
go
thing,
on
kid.
with it." And then Sarah goes and beat her. Sarah Sarah made her lose her child, and then the God let's go. Does she lose her child? Okay, hold on. Let's okay. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, slave of Sarah." Look how he changed her name. "Hagar, slave of Sarah, where have you come from and where are you going?" She said, "I'm running away from my mistress Sarah." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her." So God that sends an angel. God sees that Hagar has run away, that Sarah has beat her. She's pregnant, and God sends an angel that says, "Go back and submit."
Let me tell you something. This way off the subject. Well, it's not way off the subject. You ever heard somebody refer to a pastor as the angel of this house?
Mm-hmm.
Heard that?
Yeah. Yeah.
My mother and father had quite a tumultuous relationship. My mom was married for 17 years, and I won't get into too many details, but just know that there came a time when my mother had left the house, and the angel of that house said, "Go back and submit." That hurts my heart to hear.
A
And I
lot of
know it's,
women are told that as
yeah, I
well.
was just about to say it's a lot of women that go through that type of situation. And then when they go see the angel of that house, they tell those women to go back and submit. Like that really hurts my heart. Like specifically those words in that order, right? Like go back home and submit. Like that, yeah,
And I
yeah,
guess like this would be, the live that you're doing right now about why did this God create women,
yeah.
and then the live that Christina did, like the follow up, does God hate women? This sending her back after being brutally beaten. And I actually think I read in the midrash that she lost the child, the first child, and this encounter with the God gave her like made gave put the child put a child back into her stomach. And so, like, sending her back after being brutally beaten, having a miscarriage, and telling her to submit as the slave. And then one thing that they say in the Midrash and also in the Jewish library when they talk about Hagar is that Hagar came from Egypt, and in the original text, she was the daughter of the Pharaoh because the tradition at that time was that the Pharaoh would give one of their daughters, right, as a gift. She was the daughter of the Pharaoh, so they said that her name had to be changed and she had to be trained and her thinking had to be changed. She had to be trained to being a slave and no longer a princess. So her
Mm,
nature had to change. And so if you notice when the angel came and the angel said Hagar, slave of Sarah. He
mm,
didn't just call her Hagar. You see what I'm saying?
mm,
Yeah. So like even he's even like the angel is even saying, "You're no longer Hagar, the Egyptian princess. You're no longer
mm.
Hagar, the daughter of the Pharaoh. You are now Hagar, slave of Sarah."
Right, right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's just wild demeaning, really, when you think about it.
Huh?
And that's just really demeaning and to suggest that she go back to that type of oppression is just crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, "Return to your mistress and submit to her." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "I will so greatly multiply your offspring that they cannot be counted for multitude." And the angel of the Lord said to her, "Now you have conceived and shall bear a son. You shall call him Ishmael. For the Lord has given heed to your affliction. He shall be a wild ass of a man. What affliction? Like, is he talking about the beating or the miscarriage? Because like I'm trying to find in the text where they are pointing to the miscarriage in here. Like when he says, "Now you have conceived and shall bear a son." The now is that where they're putting the child back? I don't know.
I'm assuming.
Um,
I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. If in the mid, the thing about mid rushes is them bitches be all over the place if we telling the truth,
yeah,
right?
they do.
They be
Yeah.
all over the place, right? So, but
Mhm.
if that's an interpretation, then I'm assuming that they're using this word now as to say, okay, right this minute you have to see. No different than when the angel spoke to Mary, right?
Mhm.
You know, eh, straightway she conceived, right? When the angel spoke, she conceived.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? When she said, be it unto me as thou wilt," or whatever, that's basically when people are like, okay, now she's pregnant. Because she had to be pretty pregnant by the time she got to Elizabeth's house. She had already conceived a baby.
So would that make Ishmael Abraham's seed, or would it make it the seed of this God then? If she conceived, if she lost the baby, if Hagar beat her and made her miscarry the seed of Abraham, and then they may be saying this to say that Ishmael, this is why Isaac is the true seed because, like, there's no telling, right? But if Sarah beat her and made her lose the seed of Abraham, and then here she is talking to the angel of the Lord, and now the angel of the Lord puts another baby in her, or maybe the same baby, I don't know. But if it's a different baby, wouldn't that be like a child of this God and not necessarily the seed of Abraham?
I mean, depending on how you look at it depending on if it's the same baby, then it's the seed of Abraham. If it's not the same baby, then it's basically Jesus 1.0 or Jesus
Yeah,
beta version. The beta
exactly.
version. Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, now you have conceived and shall bear a son. You shall call him Ishmael, for the Lord has given heed to your affliction. See, yeah, for the Lord has given heed to your affliction. That it's got to be like what the Lord got to do with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it's got to be. This got to be pointing to him putting the baby back in. For he shall be a wild ass of a man with his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he shall live at odds with all his kin. So she named the Lord who spoke to her, "You are El Roy," for she said, "Have I really seen God and remained alive after seeing him?" Therefore, the well was called Ber La Ha Roy. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was
Mhm.
86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. This could also be them trying to say, see, Hagar gave birth to the devil, the unclean children, and
Mhm.
because in the I forgot, is it Galatians where he says no that these are the story of Abraham and uh Rebecca and Hagar is an allegory for the covenant, right?
Mhm.
So this could possibly be their way of saying that Hagar, the woman who is a slave, God put in her the unclean children, or the seed of the unclean, and then Sarah came forth the seed of the clean. Could that be?
I mean, again, Mizrash can say whatever they want to say. I don't know how they would come to that conclusion, but
No, I'm talking
Mizrash
about
can say whatever they
that's
want to say.
literally what Paul says. Like Paul says that this is a an allegory with a writer, right, who
Yeah,
attributed to Paul. Paul says that, right? Like he says now, hold on, let me bring it up one second. He says that in the New Testament. He says that this is an allegory.
yeah. You talk about the children of the slave, the bond woman, and children of the free woman, and we the children of
Yeah.
the free woman.
Yeah.
But did he say that the
Yeah. So
children of the bond woman were dirty, or
he said they were unclean. Like he talked about how Sarah saw Isaac and Ishmael playing together, but in the King James Bible, it says that Ishmael was bullying Isaac. So Sarah asked Abraham to send them away.
in the King
In the
James? What?
Hebrew, it says they were playing together. Sarah got jealous,
And this
saw
is
them
this is
playing.
this is Paul talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. Let me bring it up. Hold on. Let me
If Galatians 4:23.
let me see one second. Mm.
For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by the bondmaid, and the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise. With
Mhm.
which these things are an allegory. For these are the two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai, which genders to bondage, which is Hagar.
Yeah,
For
go
this
go to
Hagar.
oh, go
Oh,
ahead,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, go
No,
ahead,
you.
finish. I thought
Okay,
you were
okay.
done. Go ahead.
No, no. Tell me where to go. I'm just.
I was gonna ask you to read, Galatians. Are you in Galatians 4:29?
Well, I hadn't got to 29 yet. I'm at
Oh,
25 right now.
okay. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I just thought I started at like 23 to give it a running
Oh,
start.
I thought you said Galatians 3. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm
Okay,
in four. I'm in four. Okay, yeah.
okay.
For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry, thou hast travaileth not. For the desolate hath many more children than she which hath a husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now. That was 29. 30 says, Nevertheless, what saith the scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free.
Okay. And so he uses this to say that like Sarah made the decision to cast out Ishmael when they so the story is that um Sarah saw Ishmael bullying Isaac and made the decision to cast them out. But the Hebrew version of this story, they were playing together. They were playing. It says that they were playing sport, right? And she looked at them and got jealous and was like, "I know he don't think that he finna get any of the inheritance." And
Because
that's
that's
when.
what you thinking when you kicking around the ball. Hope this bitch don't think he gonna get none when his daddy die. That's what I be thinking when I see kids playing.
Exactly, like yeah, fighting over child support, fighting over,
Yeah,
that's that's like what literally what the Hebrew version of the text says. But notice how the Christian version of the story, they need Ishmael to be bullying Isaac in the narrative.
yeah, yeah. Good old persecution complex there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but my question about now that we just jumped over to this is Paul saying that the Israelites at Sinai were under the bondage like Hagar was under the bondage?
No. Hagar is the Hagar are the children of they're the children of they're not children of the heirs of the covenant.
That's what I'm saying.
Hold on.
But like, listen what he said. He says, "All right, but who was of the bondwoman? But he who was of the bondwoman after the flesh. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh. But he who was of the free woman was by promise. Which things are an allegory? For these are the two covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, which gendered to bondage, which is Hagar, right?
Mhm.
For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answered to Jerusalem, which is now, and is in bondage with her children. So in other words, and he was saying
Oh,
that,
yeah, remember he does that Paul doesn't think that the Israelites are heirs, like, well, let me take that back. He thinks that the Israelites were blinded by Moses,
hmm
right? So he thinks he Paul thinks that the Christians are the heirs and that they are the seed of Abraham, the spiritual seed of Abraham.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
that
okay.
because it
So
is
that so that
Christ.
so that basically he's turning Israel into the children of Hagar.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. Yeah,
never thought about
because
that.
he remember he changed the word when okay, the promise that we just talked about in Genesis 16:15, the
hmm
stars of the sky, the seed, so shall your seed be.
Yeah,
Paul takes that and changes that from a plural, like the stars in the sky,
hmm
uh eh, because the seed were the number of descendants that where you're saying like he can't count.
yeah.
Paul switches it to the descendant to so shall your seed be, like your descendant, and that descendant being Christ. And
Again,
then
God can't count.
everybody else are, huh?
God can't count. Now think about this. Now this is the worst counting of all time. If you thought 400 and 430 were the same number, let's go from billions of trillions of stars to one child. Oh, dude.
Yeah, like Genesis. Go to Galatians 3:16. That's what.
Galatians 3,
Uh-huh.
16 says the following. I just passed it. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He said not and to seeds as many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ. And I say this, that the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should make the promise of none effect. Yeah. Well, that's crazy
He
because
changes it,
he,
but he
he clearly
uses
was talking about billions and trillions.
yeah, yeah. So he changes the interpretation of that because, like the ancient Israelites believed that that promise meant the number of descendants, right? But
Yeah.
Paul uses the Greek word for seed, which is sperma, right?
Mm.
And made it a singular, where the Hebrew word there is zera, which means many or collective. So
Okay.
he uses the Septuagint there to quote the promise, and he says he says they didn't understand the prophecy. They messed up the what it really says is
Is
that
that it's
it
gonna be
says
one kid.
yeah, and now y'all are all heirs through Christ. Like that's Paul. Like yeah,
Yahweh can't count. Let me just go back and say that again. Because we've gone from billions and trillions to one. That's the worst. I don't think you could get other than zero. I don't think you could get further. Like, yeah, Chief. Yahweh
yeah,
can't count.
yeah, yep.
Yahweh, hold on, let me pray. Yahweh, Johnny has four apples. Yahweh, Johnny has four apples.
Oh my God. Yahweh still wouldn't even get it after you yelled at him.
Johnny has 4 apples.
It's like a parent getting upset. When you're like, what's the answer to what's 2 plus 2? Did you see that video? uh
Johnny, he takes away 2. How many? 3? No, Johnny has. My bad. Hey man, let me get out. Quit talking to him because I have to hang up on him sometimes.
oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, Joel says the NIV confirms Paul's version, and now he's saying they're biased. This is
And
why I
what
don't
what
like the
scripture?
NIV. What does the NIV say about Paul's version? Like, let me see. What does the
Does
NIV say?
yeah. Yeah, thank you, TT. Yeah, make sure you guys are hitting that like and subscribe button, man. Make sure you're sharing these out with people. We're just trying to get 1,000 subscribers so that we can, get this up and rolling. We're not far away. Yeah,
Yeah, they say seed. They say seed too. They do
mm,
confirm it. Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
It is okay. Well, today was a good show. You got anything else you want to add?
No, that'll do it. That'll do it for me. I figured the math was gonna take us around a little bit. I was like, 15 and 16 might be a stretch, but maybe we can. I don't know. There's a lot in 15. There's a lot to think about. It's a lot. That's a lot that's being established for us here. But it
Hmm.
was just, yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yep, I did too. I'm about to go back to sleep.
Take a nap, my love. Good to see you.
Mhm. All right. Are you
Y'all
going
be good,
live?
guys. All right.
Are
Yeah,
you
I am
going
gonna go
live?
live. I'm gonna go live. I'm
What
gonna go live.
what time? What time?
Give me probably about 30 minutes or so.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We always appreciate y'all and your support. Make sure y'all hit the like button, the share button, and the notification button. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. We'll see y'all on TikTok Live. Until
In the
later.
streets.
Love y'all.